What's up again, guys? Brian here at 3Tier, and welcome to another episode of People's Questions, where I answer all the questions that you guys sent me over the past week. This time we have a pretty, I'd say even shorter episode than usual. A lot of responses in the comments section and very few questions as I would have expected, but you know, that's okay. I can work with what I get. Let's go real simple with the first question coming from Zyborg136, and you want to know, what directors annoy me the most? That's a tough question because I can't think of a specific director that annoys me, but there are, like, I'll point out two. And I don't think they're bad directors. I just think that they're not the right directors for certain projects. For example, Zack Snyder. I can appreciate what he did with Man of Steel. However, I do acknowledge that it was definitely had some problems. But I never believed that he was the right director to tell the type of story that they were going for. I just don't think that Zack Snyder is really that kind of director. He's a very visual director, but I don't think he knows how to handle story very well. And even if you go by what happened with Justice League, which, remember, I haven't seen it, but I've seen enough videos that kind of tell me what the plot is, and it looked like this movie was going to be a mess either way, whether, you know, Zack Snyder had stayed the course or whether Joss Whedon had probably wanted to make the film that he wanted to make, which, you know, having a mix of the two just doesn't work. But I just think that he's just not the right director for that type of project. And the same goes for something like Michael Bay. Now that Michael Bay hopefully will be going away from these Transformers films, ever since, I would say, the second one, he constantly is making mistakes that he just doesn't fix. And I'm like, I gave the first movie a lot of credit, and I actually do enjoy the first Transformers film, but I do acknowledge that it did have some problems that I wish that he had fixed, and when he isn't fixing them, and we're still seeing these problems, it gets kind of frustrating. Now, when he's not working on Transformers films, I think he's a fine director. Like, you look at movies like Pain and Gain or 13 Hours, you know, I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, 13 Hours, like The Secret Soldier. I think those are pretty solid movies that work to his strengths. But I just don't like it when directors like those two make issues, continue making those issues, and just refuse to change those problems. It's when they do that that annoys me the most. But just from those two, I would say those are probably the best examples that I can come up with. Next question comes from Cassidy J. Williams, and you want to know, since Square Enix made both Woody and Buzz Lightyear's swords allies in the Toy Story world, do I think that Mr. Incredible's wife and Elastigirl and their kids Dash and Violet should be as fun as allies in the Incredibles world too? That would be really interesting. I think they should stick with two. I mean, I think that Dash and Violet would be interesting allies, but I'm still curious how this whole system is going to work. I mean, we're used to always having Donald and Goofy with us, or having, say, at least Donald or one of the two with us at one time. So having the ability to have two world-focused allies is definitely an interesting change. For the time being, I would say we just stick with Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible. If they want to add Dash and Violet, then I would say go ahead. And you even mentioned something about Frozone, and I think that's just going a little bit excessive. And if there is a battle with Syndrome, it would be nice to have Frozone play some sort of role, but I wouldn't want him as a direct ally. I would prefer to keep it within the family. Next question comes from Santu Scarpino. You want to know, do I think that Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross should be remade? No. They're classic games. They're legendary games, in my opinion. Legendary RPGs. Definitely up there with some even the better Final Fantasy games. Leave them alone. They're just fine. Next question comes from Goku-san. You want to know, how much stronger would Shepard get after doing Batman's training? You know, I have to say, you have the strangest comparisons. What makes you think that Batman and Mass Effect would mix well? I think I stated this in like the last video or the video before. These two guys are doing completely different things. Shepard is a soldier, while Batman is not really a soldier. I don't really think there's anything that Shepard could learn from Batman that would help him travel the galaxy. I mean, if he needed something done, he has allies that can handle that kind of things. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of operating in a team, as opposed to someone like Batman, who, though he has a team of his own, he's rather independent. And he's not even capable of dealing with, like, top-level cosmic threats. I mean, I mean, from what I heard, Batman is just not that effective in the Justice League movie, and it makes sense. I've never really been a fan of Batman in the Justice League itself because it just doesn't seem like he would be all that useful combatively. I mean, if you just needed him to stay at the base and giving everyone, you know, data like he does with Terry, that seems like to be the best role he would serve. But I wouldn't think he'd be very effective in a fight against something like Amazo, or like, you know, Amazo Prime, or Imperiax, or hell, even Darkseid. I really, whenever they decide to get Darkseid in the mix, I really don't think Batman would be all that effective, and that's even if we're going to get another Justice League movie. But yeah, I really don't think there's anything that Batman could teach Shepard that would help him. I think Shepard's actually a bit above Batman in terms of how he operates. Next question comes from Matt Cruz. You want to know, who do I think is the most overrated athlete that I can think of? Overrated. I'm gonna be honest. Okay, I don't want to offend anybody. I think that Julio Jones is a little bit overrated. I mean, he's an incredible receiver, but you know, I'm more of a let's just say I'm a bigger fan of another receiver on the Steelers, and if you know, some of you guys know me pretty well, you know who I'm talking about. I'm a bigger fan of him than Julio Jones. Julio Jones is no doubt an impressive receiver, but you know, I mean, he has some incredible catches, but he hasn't really done anything that I haven't seen anyone else do before. I mean, as far as I can remember, I haven't seen him do like a one-handed catch like Odell Beckham Jr. or something like that. But you know, that's who I would say is overrated. But that's no disrespect to him, because he still is an incredible receiver for the Falcons. But he works well within that system. Next question comes from the Immortal Super Being, and this is another question where I honestly, you want me to decide who would win between these two characters, and I honestly don't know who either of them are. I'm guessing like I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't really know them all that well, so I can't really answer that question. Next question comes from what, man, I always have trouble with this. Ulcerna, hope I said that right. And you want to know, besides the Usanek, is there any other character from another franchise that is a strength-based character that could stand up or take Nemesis down? I don't know, the Hulk, Doomsday, someone like that. Mongol, I think they definitely could stand up to someone like Nemesis for sure, but that's just off the top of my head. Next question comes from Good Neutral Evil Chaos. You want to know, if Nemesis was in Death Battle, who do I think he should go up against? Again, another Nemesis question. In gaming, I honestly can't pick somebody that would be a good match. I really can't. I mean, again, like the Hulk or Mongol or, you know, Doomsday, I think that'd be a basic fit. I mean, I think the only other character I can think of who might be a suitable matchup for Nemesis, maybe Tyrant from Resident Evil, maybe. You know, maybe he might be able to do something. I think he'd get blown away, but you know. Next question comes from The Black Struggle, and you want to know, what do I think is the most overrated comic book story? You think it is The Dark Knight Rises overrated because they make Superman a bitch? I don't think he's a... I wouldn't go so far as to say Superman was a bitch in that, but it was just he wanted to work for authority. I mean, people had a bad opinion about the Justice League, and he thought that maybe by working officially for the government, people would have a better opinion about heroes. So I don't think, but if I could pick one that's overrated, I think Flashpoint is a little bit overrated. And the reason I think that is, I think the concept is a cool idea, but it just seems a little bit out there. There are definitely some interesting ideas, you know. I mean, like the fact that, you know, instead of Bruce being the one that survives the gunshot. He's the actual one that dies, and his father, Thomas Wayne, becomes Batman, and his mother becomes the Joker, which, if I remember, they don't actually go too deep into that. I mean, that would have been something interesting to see, in that, you know, Wonder Woman and Aquaman had a relationship, and the Atlanteans and the Amazon had this massive war, and, you know, Dr. Zoom is... like, it's just all over the place. And I think it was only meant to do there just to reboot the whole DC universe. I think that was its only purpose. But I think that there were other ways that it could have been done, because it had been done before. So, yeah, I think Flashpoint is a little bit overrated. I mean, I think they tried doing that in the Flash TV show, and I don't think it was really all that great. So, yeah. And I think the next question comes from... Actually, I think that might be it. Yeah, that's... Okay, no, I got one more question. And this comes from Jake Albanet. And you want to know... out of Cole McGrath from Infamous and Raiden from Metal Gear Solid Horizon, who would win? So basically, you're asking, who do I think would win? I think Raiden could take down Cole. I'm sorry, that sword of his is pretty damn effective. A lot of Cole's lightning blasts aren't really going to be all that effective against Raiden, and I think he's maneuverable enough that he'd be able to dodge Cole's other powers, whether it's just fire powers to incinerate things or his ice powers. I think he'd be able to avoid them. So if I had to pick between Cole and Raiden from Rising, I would go with Raiden. And with that, those are all the questions that you guys sent for this episode. I'd like to thank all of you guys for sending in your questions to make this episode possible. If you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer, make sure you type them in the comments down below. Make sure you get them into me before next Wednesday, before I start filming this. I decided to like hold it off another day because there was like one person who had a question on Thursday, so I had a little bit of extra time. But make sure you get it in by Wednesday for sure. So with that out of the way, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.